No. Applications of the Consumer Price Index. We're going to play by understanding federal debt and minimum wage with the Consumer Price Index. So our first question, in the year 2000, the federal debt was 5,600,000,000, no, more than that. 36912. Oh my gosh, it's real big, right? 5,674,000,000, no, billion, 178,000,000. Yep, that's what it is. Trillion, billion, million. Okay. With a population of 281 million. All right. We have a population of 281 million. We're going to roll with this. Find the federal debt per capita for the year 2000. Okay, so we've got debt per person. That's what we're trying to find. So we start with our debt, 5,674,000,000,000, 178,000,000, all over 281 million. Remember, million means times 10 to the 6th. So I can add 6 zeros. Now, one thing that I want to do here is say, well, ends with 6 zeros, ends with 6 zeros. Those will cancel out. So I end up with 5,674,178 divided by 281. That makes this just a little nicer. And then when I divide, I end up with $20,192.80 per person. So in the year 2000, if every person in the U.S. would have paid a little over $20,000, we would have canceled out the federal debt. I didn't have that in 2000. I was senior in high school. Okay, part B. Use the CPI table to estimate what the federal debt per capita would be in the year 2010 when adjusted inflation only since the year 2000. So we're comparing 2000 to 2010. And we're looking at the debt per capita, and then we need CPI, right? So thinking about our setup. So I know in the year 2000, our debt per capita is $20,192.80, and we're trying to find what it is in 2010. So now I look at the table and say, okay, in the year 2000, our CPI is 172.2, and in 2010, it's 218.056. So I cross multiply, and I get 172.2x equals, big number, 403, 161, 197. All right, I divide both sides by 172.2, and I end up with $25,570.04. So that is what the federal debt per capita should be in 2010 if it increased with inflation. Well, the actual federal debt per capita in the year 2010 had grown to be $13,561,623 million, and the population had grown to 309 million. Compute the federal debt per capita. Okay, so federal debt per capita, 13,561,623 million means times 10 to the 6th, and the population is 309 million, which is times 10 to the 6th. So once again, our 10 to the 6th cancel out, and I can just take 13,561,623 divided by 309. When I get that, I get the federal debt per capita at $43,888.75. So that's per person. So in the year 2010, every person would need to pay almost $44,000 to bring the federal debt down to zero. That's every person. That's every man, woman, child, everybody in between. No matter your age, no matter your gender, doesn't matter who you are or what you do, you owe $44,000. Ain't nobody got time for that. So you can see that the federal debt is rising way faster than inflation. Number 4, the federal debt in the year 2020 was 26.9 trillion and the population was 332 million. Let's find the federal debt per capita. Okay, so now I have 26.9 trillion. Trillion is 12. Population is 332 million, which is 10 to the 6th. Okay, great. So let's first play with our numbers. 26.9 divided by 332 is 0.081024096. And then, same base, divide the exponents, or not divide, subtract the exponents. dividing with the same base, you subtract the exponent. So 12 minus 6 is 6. So to get this number in standard form, I'm going to move my decimal 6 places to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I would get $81,024 and, well, 10 cents if we round up. Per person. So in 2020, every person would have to pay over $81,000. Y'all, that is more than most people, I shouldn't say most, that is more than a lot of people make in a year. Like, I don't know very many people that earn more than that a year at their job. Like, that is a lot of money. So let's use the CPI table to determine how much the 2020 debt per capita value is in year $22,000 when adjusted for inflation. So now we're working backwards. We're comparing 2020 to 2000. And we're saying if this had been the same, right? So we're looking at debt per capita. And we know in 2020, it was $81,024.10. And we're trying to find what it was or what it should have been in 2000 for this to be growing with inflation. So the CPI in 2020 is 258,811. And again, in 2000, 172,2. So we cross multiply. 258,811x equals 13,952, 350.02. I divide both sides by 258,811, 258,811, and it should have been 53,909.42 cents in the year 2000 if it grew in inflation, grew with inflation to get to 81,000 in there. So what can we compare or conclude by comparing these values? Okay, so if we're looking at 2000 to 2020, and we talk about actual, well, the actual in the year 2000 was 20,192.80. With inflation, right, if we think about that, it should, okay, so the actual, man, I'm all over the place today. The actual in 2020 was 81,024.10 cents. So if these were correlated, that means with inflation, if it had been with inflation to get there, it should have been 53,909.42 cents. Look at these two values for 2000. The actual was just over 20,000, and if it had been with inflation with the year 2020, it should have been closer to 54,000. Y'all, that is a huge difference of like more than $33,000. That just shows you how much larger or how much faster federal debt per capita has grown than inflation. Like just blowing it out of the water so much faster, and that is scary for all of us here because that is not what we want.